on a day that kind of looks like a Hallmark Christmas movie. Don't you wish it were like that when you really wanted to know? Do we have any audience members here for the first time? Welcome to you. We should have buttons that says I found one through a center. We're part of a condominium community. We're the public space in it. So we're working on signage and lighting, but now that you've been here, don't be strangers, please come back. And of course, a great welcome to all of our seasoned veterans who return time and time again. I do a little housekeeping to start with. If you've not yet turned off your cell phone, now would be a good time to do it. I want to thank the many people who contribute to Lagura Center's annual fund. We just started that. We're very grateful to them, and I know a number of them are here in the audience tonight. But that money doesn't pay for everything. Hence the donation box, conveniently located in the doorway as you come in. But I've just received some good news. An anonymous donor has issued a challenge. Our goal in the donation box for our fiscal year is $5,000. Our fiscal year ends in June. We're about halfway to it. They have said if we hit the $5,000, then every dollar over that they will match up to $10,000. Wow. So we encourage you to help us. If you've not thrown something, even if you have a $100 bill laying around in your wallet, you want to pop it in there, we won't be giving change. Anyway, so that's something that's going on for the next 6 months. Now on to our talk this evening. So last February, several weeks after Christmas and New Year's were over, I'm driving down Water Street to work. You all came down here then, and I damn near crashed my car as my head was whipping about, looking at this plethora of Christmas decorations. And I thought, good Lord, it seems like a Hallmark movie. Came in here, and I had no idea that's what it was. And our borough was in fact invaded by Hollywood. We were so thrilled. And then I subsequently read an article in The Day about our guest and his work filming in the state, and thought he might be a wonderful subject for our Behind the Curtain series. And it looks like all of you thought so too. Our guest speaker, Andrew Gernhardt, is a native of Norwich and attended the Norwich Free Academy, the NFA, and Southern Connecticut State University. So this is a local boy, a good story. I'm sure you've heard that before. He got his start in the film TV world in the thriller, monster, horror genre. So I love that he's expanded his repertoire to include Hallmark Christmas movies, which just reminds us that the art of storytelling goes across a very broad spectrum. Well, I hope you have the chance to read his bio. In your program, we're going to take some time tonight to chat about his career, as well as the most, recent movie, Holiday for Heroes, that has been airing over the past month and was shot a good deal right down the street. Please give a warm welcome to Andrew Gernhardt. And his baby is here tonight. She's upstairs. So if we hear some little gurgles, it's most welcome. I've already threatened her. She acts up, out she goes. So before we get to this particular movie, Andrew, let's go back and hear about the beginning of your career. Are you one of those kids who is kind of wielding a camera, or writing or drawing stories, acting in plays? How'd you get started?
Well, it's funny because I went to, how many of you have been to NFA? A lot of people. Well, I was in the art program at NFA, and going through elementary school and junior high, I was like the best artist. But then when I got to NFA, I was not. I was very good, but my class far outshined me with their skills. And it was at a time when video was just beginning. There wasn't such a thing as an iPhone where you can make a gigantic movie on an iPhone now. We had the old VHS camcorders, and everything was terrible to make a movie or something. But I knew I had to do something to get a scholarship that wasn't art related because I knew I was going to lose. So I went into Century Public Access before, I assume Comcast or something is there now?
Cable access.
Yeah, cable access. So I did cable access. I learned a lot of it on my own because there was no video production at that point in high school. And I applied to different colleges, and I ended up winning like the biggest award, the Leslie J. Spivak Visual Arts Award, because I was the only one who entered for video production. So I was like, wow, it was like a lot of money, and I was like, great, everybody else was doing painting and everything. So I went to Southern Connecticut State University. Now it's a beautiful school. When I went there, it was kind of transitioning. And I was just talking to the audience earlier. I went at a time when video production was at its worst. It's when tape was dying and digital was beginning. So I was at the birth and the death of two technologies. So it was the worst of both worlds. But it taught me more than what they teach kids today because nothing is, on an iPhone, everything's automatic. I mean, if I had an iPhone, I could have made Terminator 2 when I was 17 years old, but I didn't have that technology. So I went to Southern for a communications degree, and I minored in graphic design, which got me into movies, and which led me to Blockbuster Video, which now doesn't exist. And I could bring that up.
Last book of past.
Yeah, at one point there were 8,000 Blockbuster stores, and in a matter of 2 years there was none. And that's where we did the monster movies. We did a whole bunch of really low budget monster movies, because my friends were making, that went to NYU and all the big film schools, they were making these big dramas with no stars that were
Art film.
Art films are beautifully shot, but nobody was watching them. They're getting into some festivals there. And I started talking to distributors of movies. And I went to Blockbuster, and I noticed that they're all A-list movies or monster movies. So I said, well, I'd rather people watch my movies than just go to a film festival and watch it once. So I started to make Killer Amish, Sasquatch movies, all these crazy things. And Blockbuster bought a ton of copies of these monster movies, which eventually went into cable, which led me to Christmas, which is similar to monster movies.
Don't go so fast.
Yeah.
One of the pieces I read about was called Trees.
Yes.
Tell the story behind that one.
So, for a while I was doing educational videos. I don't know if you remember that, for Hoyt Mifflin, a book company. I was doing science videos and I can go potty videos, which is scary in itself. But I'll be learning about the potty thing shortly. Hopefully I retained it. And at the time, a friend of mine and I, we were getting so beaten up with this children learning videos. And we love Jaws. We did a parody of Jaws called Trees, about a killer great white pine tree versus a lumberjack botanist. And we started as a short film, copying every scene terribly from Jaws. And then it turned into, we copied the scene for scene Jaws, but with a shaking pine tree. And every scene was copied. And Blockbuster bought a bunch of VHS units. And then we did a sequel, which did terribly, and nobody bought. So I dropped out of video production, and I did graphic design for a couple of years. And then distributors kept asking me for, are you making another movie? Are you making another movie? And I said, sure, what do you want? And they're like, oh, we want teenagers and monsters and beaches. So I'm like, fine. So we wrote a movie called Hell's Beacon. Which is awful. You can't buy these anymore. If you did, you guys would send me death threats after you watched it. We did a real cheap movie called Hell's Beacon that Universal Studios Home Video bought at the DVD boom, and they retitled it Predator Island because hell would not work in the Midwest. So it was called Predator Island, and from that led to a bunch of DVD releases.
This is so amazing. I'd forgotten about. We're so into the streaming platforms now. I'd forgotten that we used to get our Netflix DVD.
Delivered. Yeah.
I'd forgotten all about that. So you go back to Blockbuster, it's like, my God, live through these changes in technology.
I miss Blockbuster. I miss walking through the aisles.
So what you're saying is we can't find Trees anywhere?
It's on Amazon for $128. I don't recommend spending that money.
No.
I'll probably find some copies in my basement. I can sell them.
No. Tell us about how you came to found your company. It's called Synthetic Cinema
Yeah. International.
International. So those are three really interesting words.
So the company began years ago when I started doing Predator Island. I needed money to make a movie, and I didn't have any money. So I went to Rich Lucas, who was he was the communications dean at Southern Connecticut State University. He knew a bunch of people had money, and I said, I'm looking to invest to make a movie called Hell's Beacon for Blockbuster, because I think I knew the formula, I knew who would buy it. I said, let me try and do this. So he said, give me a week or two to figure this out. And he went back with his wife, Bonnie Farley Lucas, who's also real high up at Southern right now. He's retired now. And they came back to me a couple weeks later. They said, we'll fund the movie, but we don't want to just do one movie. We want to form a company called Synthetic Cinema. Well, I created the name because it's kind of a joke, because I feel like we never made real movies. So we called it Synthetic Cinema, and I threw international to make it sound more impressive. And so I kind of,
You are.
it's the fake it till you make it kind of technique, which I've been doing a lot in Hollywood. So he invested in Treasure Island, which led to Blood Descendants, which led to Lycan, which led to Assault of the Sasquatch, a whole bunch of these crazy
Don't
ones.
you love these titles?
Yeah, if only we could make them more Christmassy, they could go on.
So the company is actually in Rocky Hill. Why is that?
Well, I don't go there much anymore, because I've been running around a lot. But it's in, we're looking for offices. We never shoot in the studio. Rarely do we shoot in the studio, I should say. So we wanted to find a place that's kind of in the middle of the state. We looked at Middletown and Cromwell and Rocky Hill. And we just have, a small place with edit suites in Rocky Hill. We have a full basement full of 5,000 square feet of Christmas props now. So eventually I'll need to get rid of those if everybody's looking for discount Christmas. So we're in Rocky Hill. I ended up going to New York. I just got back from 6 weeks in Iceland, shooting a movie for Hallmark. So we're starting to expand outside of Connecticut, so I can finally use that term.
You got your international now.
International. So
That's very cool. I was going to ask actually about Christmas decorations, if Hallmark owned them or you had to scramble.
no, we own them. Hallmark always puts in more money to the budget to get more, but we have everything from gaudy to classic to antique. Legitimately tons of Christmas.
I love this. Before we get to Christmas again, though, a name that's pretty well known to Southeastern Connecticut comes into your story, and that's the novelist Wally Lamb. Tell us that story and the movie that came from that.
Wally taught at NFA. His last year teaching was when I was a freshman, and so I knew a little bit about him. And years later, when I was working with Lifetime before Hallmark, Lifetime still does Christmas movies. You'll see, we did a bunch, we did 2 of them this year. They were looking for movies, Christmas movies, and I went to Wally, and I know nobody made a movie about any of his books yet, other than an option, but I asked him if Wishing and Hoping was available, because it was a small novella, and it wasn't as hard as a lot of his books are. I'm sure you guys have read a lot of his books, are very deep. And so we pitched it to Lifetime. They ignored me for a year and a half, and they ended up greenlighting it, and we did Wishing and Hoping, which is still one of my favorite films that we've made. It's had Molly Ringwald, Chevy Chase, Meatloaf, my personal hero, a whole bunch of Sherry Terry was in it. It was a beautiful cast, set in the 60s, and it is one of my favorite movies. Hallmark just started Lifetime just started re-showing it again this year. So it's been on a couple times on Lifetime. So, and again, it's a beautiful film.
I wanted to see it. Thank you, I'll look at that. You used a couple of film terms that probably many of us do know, but let's just make sure. Talk about the word option, what that means when you're talking about a property.
Option is when we've done a lot of books to movies, and you option the rights to the books. Since we don't do big Hollywood blockbuster movies where people get a lot of money, I option the rights for a very small period of time for a very nominal fee, and then I guarantee if the movie gets made, they get a percentage of the budget based on if it gets greenlit, based on what the budgets I'm working with. And that's what I did to get a lot of the books that we've done. There's a zombie movie called Remains where we shut down half of Norwich. I'm sure you guys might remember that. I still get hate emails for shutting down the main tracks of Norwich. We did Dead Souls, Deep in the Darkness, and Wally Lamb. Wish and Hoping. So I haven't optioned any books lately, but I've been looking at some Christmas books now for Hallmark.
And when you did option Wally's book, what went into the process? He did not write the screenplay for it, someone else did. What was the story around that?
Well, Wally and I had a nice lunch at Ryan's Deli in Vernon, Connecticut, and between everybody asking for his autograph, we talked about the optioning of the book. And we had a local gentleman called John Doolin. He's from Waterbury, now lives in New Haven. He wrote the TV version of Wish and Hoping, which Wally loved. We also had a screenplay for We Are Water, because Wally and I have been planning on making that into a feature film, because I know he just came off of I Know This Much Is True, which is going to be outrageously awesome. HBO invested a lot of money into it. We were hoping we'd get it to Connecticut, to shoot, but they ended up shooting in New York, because New York had very good tax credits and a big crew base. So they ended up shooting in New York, but you will be blown away by the production quality.
When does it come out, do you know?
I assume in mid-2020, because I've been seeing it in HBO's sizzle reels.
And if that goes well, do you think that bodes well for your project?
Yeah, we're hoping, Wally and I are hoping that will lead to the feature film version of We Are Water. We have an excellent script by John Doolin that his agents have read, and a lot of people have read and loved it. It's definitely, it's a Wally Lamb film. It's very deep, very hard-hitting. So it's definitely a different direction for us, which is what I'm hoping for, so we could just expand what we do.
Again, the art of storytelling on a broad spectrum.
Yep.
We're hearing Andrew's hitting just about every slot on the spectrum. The other word you used is green light.
Green light means you go to a studio or a network and they agree to go into production of the film, which means you can start with the script and they have a budget in mind to actually make the movie.
And that'll get us a little closer to Hallmark and Lifetime. As you work with these, I guess we still call them cable networks.
Yep.
Do they give you a budget and say, Andrew, you got $2 million to make this? Or you say, here's my script, I can do it for this much, and how does the budgeting work with it?
It's, I can't go into financials with them because that's an NDA, but they do, it's a combination, it's a group effort. They have certain budgets, just like any business, that they can spend per movie per year, and I just work with them to whatever fits their mold for those particular movies.
Well, now they know you are a reliable producer because they've come to you multiple times.
Yep.
Does the property, the script actually start with you, or does it start with them? Or you look in and it just depends?
It's a combination. We pitch movies, which means we come up with the concepts and we do the script writing from there. But we also get called to make movies. Like I'll get a call from Hallmark and they're like, hey, we have a movie that needs to shoot in a month. Can you do it? And we do it. I unfortunately had to turn down, I did 5 movies this year, which took up my entire time. And I had to turn down 2 Hallmark movies. Unfortunately, one was their first Hanukkah movie, Holiday Date, which actually is this weekend. And I really wanted to make that, but I ended up not making that. And then the other one, A Christmas in Montana, I think it was going to take place in Connecticut.
Because really Hallmark is hitting any scenic part of this country.
Yep, and they'll be expanding that shortly.
I mean, I read somewhere they did 40 new films this year.
40. They did 108 original movies.
Well, maybe it was 40
across
for
the year.
Okay, it's 40 for Christmas.
Next year's at like 123 movies. So I'm just getting into the meetings now to figure out what we're up for next year.
Days, my goodness. Tell us a little bit now about the job of a producer. And we have, at least I'm aware of, generally speaking, 3 aspects of a film, something we call pre-production, which you got into a little bit of getting the property, working on the actual production, and post-production. Kind of talk about, and I'm going to let you go for a little while too. We also know, if we read credits, there are executive producers, and line producers, plain old producers, associate producers. Maybe talk about that, and just go with that.
Well, the producer is involved with the movie from the very inception to the delivery. So that varies. You know, in some Hallmark movies, it's real fast. It's like 2 months. Some of them it's 2 years. So it depends on, like our first Hallmark movie was Romance at Reindeer Lodge, which we shot in Hamden. I'm already forgetting now. They're all blending into one. Hamden. Now, Hallmark came to us. We had the movie in development with them for probably 6 months, and it was end of October, and Hallmark never called us. So I'm like, so Reindeer Lodge isn't going to happen this year, right? And they're like, no. So like, fine. And then first week of November, I get a phone call from Hallmark saying, we're going to go into production of Reindeer Lodge. I'm like, oh, for next year? For this year. And so it's the first week of November. We don't even have a completed script. And they're like, this has to be on TV December 14th. And they said, can you do it? And I said, sure, I can do it. I've never done a movie for Hallmark before, so I'm like, oh, let's do this. So we had in the end, it came out to like 6 or 7 weeks to finish the script, shoot the movie, and deliver it within 6 to 7 weeks.
That's pretty unusual, folks.
It's pretty unusual. So we did it, and we delivered it perfectly, which was scary, which led us to other Hallmark movies. The current film we did, I just got off about 36 hours ago, just got back from Iceland for a movie called Love on Iceland, which is an international production that I set up. And we just finished shooting it for 3 weeks. That is on the air January 25th. So I have a team in post-production now in New York City. I'm going to New York City first thing tomorrow morning. And we have to lock the edit by Monday, and then start the music, special effects, credits, and color, and finish it over Christmas in time for the podcast. The first commercials for the movie run this weekend, and we just finished it 2 days ago.
What's it called again?
Love on Iceland. And this is going to be totally different for Hallmark fans. It's the same story. It's a love story, group of friends, but it's way bigger than the average Hallmark film you'll see. We have ice caves and waterfalls and helicopters. It's a gigantic movie. We're very proud of it. So hopefully you will enjoy it, because I know they're closely watching it for future movies based on international stuff.
So we have to make sure that we watch it so the ratings come up. How did, I don't watch it all that regularly, but Iceland seems quite a departure. Are they trying to, I read somewhere that it's a winter movie, or how did this come about? Did you pitch this?
Yeah, it's a Winterfest movie, which is part of their, they have the summer brides, and the fall, the loved ones, and the...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it fits in with Winterfest, because it has glaciers and, ice caves, and it's freezing cold over there. So this was 2 years ago. My fiance and I went on a trip of Iceland for 10 days or so, and we had like the best trip ever. And I was at the Hallmark offices in New York, and they were looking for international stuff. And they said, we did this great trip to Iceland, and this would make a great movie, and they immediately greenlit it. So it led to a movie, and they've been seeing the footage of Hallmark, and absolutely, it is a beautiful film. It is a beautiful film. I'm hoping that they're going to do more in Iceland.
Well, it's sort of uncharted territory. There's not a lot of filmmaking, American filmmaking, I don't think, that's gone on there that is really...
Well, you'd be surprised. Iceland, if you've seen Star Wars, Game of Thrones, all these A-list huge movies shoot in
I
Iceland.
didn't know that.
Because it, Lost in Space, the TV series, the new one, not the old 60s version, the one on Netflix, shoots in Iceland, so they have very high-end productions. So this was kind of new for them with a TV movie shooting in Iceland. And we shot in 15 days, which is unheard of in Iceland. When I went there, the Iceland producers were like, do you know anything about Iceland? It's like a nightmare here. I'm like, we're going to shoot in 15 days. And we lucked out every day. We did not have one delay. We used helicopter. We actually had to fly a mile in helicopters to an ice cave. Like, it was crazy, but we made it. Well, we left 36 hours ago, and now we've been following Iceland, but they got demolished with a hurricane of snow. So as soon as we left, my luck left, and now they got hit with the snow. So Iceland is now buried under snow and frozen. But,
That is so exciting, and yet I mean, Hallmark knows, I mean, they threw you in, they baptized you by fire, so they know you can deliver, so they,
Yeah, I bet they took bets in the office on that one too. Because that
let's
was,
send him to Iceland, he can get it.
oh, let's see if he can survive. But yeah, we had a great crew, we had a great creative producer, which is an executive producer.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to talk about producers.
Ew.
So Hallmark there's executive producers who oversee the whole project. There's producers that are on it from the beginning to the end, and then there's things called creative producers, which I'm sure you've all seen Hallmark films. The director guides the movie as far as the performance it is and how everything is laid out. But the creative producer oversees that it has the look that Hallmark wants. The wardrobe, the makeup, the hair, the locations, and the creative producer does that. Me, I deal with everybody's problems. It's the worst. So I just deal with contracts and people crying and dealing with logistical issues. So I don't always get to have the most fun. Like I was making fun of the director and the creative producer on this one, that they went out to all these great locations while I'm doing budgets. Great, I sat in an office. But it's all part of a team that gets stuff done.
It does. How much, you have a visual eye from your early years as an artist. Do you have any involvement with editing at the end or some of the visual stuff, or is that mostly the artistic folk?
Well, I don't have as much creative input as I would like to, but I've done so many movies that it's not as important to me as it used to be. My goal is to just make the best movie we can for the budget we have with the people we have. So I am a producer who, a lot of producers micromanage, and I do to an extent, but I also like to let artists do their work. The director of photography does their work, the director does their work, the creative producer, and only come to me if there's a problem or if I see something that definitely doesn't work, then I jump in. I'm letting right now, I'm here, they're in New York, I'm letting the director and the creative producer and the editor go at it. And I will just sit down with Hallmark at the end of the week to make sure it's what they want.
And I'm thinking Lifetime or Hallmark, do correct me if I'm wrong, by having this role of a creative producer, that they have a brand, if you will.
Yep.
They, in a way that perhaps the networks or even the high-end networks wouldn't necessarily do, but this is an important part of the Hallmark brand. Yes?
Yeah, they definitely want a particular type of movie for all their little stunts. So they're maintaining the brand. That is absolutely, and I help do that.
And can you share some of that with us? I mean, some of it, I think we know there's going to be a romance. There's probably not going to be sex, but a kiss.
Yeah.
It's going to look a certain way.
Yep.
And I assume you can't talk about it, but it's got to be made for a certain amount of money in a certain period of time.
Yep. Yeah, Hallmark, what they pride themselves on is they're G-rated, as you all know. They want movies that everything a 6-year-old can watch to a grandmother. Nothing that anybody's embarrassed about. But we did have a war scene in Holiday for Heroes, which was new for Hallmark. We had explosions and gunshots in the opening, which I thought they were going to cut, but we shot it in Norwich. That was Norwich doubled for Afghanistan. And it worked. I put up some decorations and it worked. So we did have some war stuff. And in Love in Iceland, we have 2 kisses. So we push the envelope. We have a very late night romantic kiss that night, which doesn't quite hit properly. But then we have the romantic kiss at the end under the northern lights, like everybody wants. So we are pushing the envelope. 2 kisses.
The Northern Lights. Now